Good morning, guys. Thanks for listening to Coffee with Christ. If you haven't subscribed, hit the button below. It is a morning. It is a crazy morning that I am running super behind on everything. Whose fault? My own. But you know what? I'm here. It's good. I've had Jesus and coffee, and I guess it doesn't matter that it's all just a little bit behind. So this morning has been really good. Part of the reason is because I'm running late today, but part of the reason is because the study time just took longer. I just got into it. It was so good. And I am in 2 Timothy today and have been thinking on Paul and Timothy. And Timothy was like a son to Paul, for those of you who don't know. And the letters were written to Timothy while Paul was in prison in 2 Timothy. And it's just an amazing thing. But I was thinking about it as I was just, let me read this to you real quick. So 2 Timothy 1, starting at verse 5 says, I remember your genuine faith, for you share the faith that first filled your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice. And I know that same faith continues strong in you. This is Paul writing to Timothy. This is why I remind you to fan into flames the spiritual gift God gave you when I laid hands on you. For God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and of self-discipline. Okay, so here's Timothy. What do we know about him? We know that Timothy was raised in the faith. Timothy was taught faith from his grandma and his mom. So he was, we also know that Timothy's mom was Jewish and his dad was Greek. That's why he had to be circumcised as an adult. He wasn't as a baby. But so we know some stuff about Timothy. But what I was thinking was, think about this. Now, tell me if anybody out there was like me. When I got saved, I was like, man, I wish I had a good testimony. I just was like, I wish my parents were drug addicts. Or I wish I was a drug addict. I just wished I had this night and day testimony, because I know that God comes in. It doesn't matter how crazy your life is. God can come in and he sets us free. He helps us. He changes us, and he gives us a testimony. And I used to be so upset. I was like, I want a really crazy testimony. And I thought it hindered me from being used. Hindered me. And I wondered if Timothy felt that way. Did Timothy ever sit around and think, I wish I was like Paul? I wish I was a murderer. Because God can use Paul. Paul's so great because Paul was a murderer. So the reminder, as I'm just sitting here, I was going to go in a different direction. But as I'm sitting here, the reminder is, it's not about our testimony. It's not about what a crazy wild life we lived and what God set us free from. I mean, it's a little bit about that, but it is about the power of God. And we all need the power of God in us. The power of God to fan the flames of the spiritual gift. It's about God working in us to go out and do what he needs us to do, to share Christ's love and forgiveness with the world. And so I just wondered if Timothy did that. I don't know. I know that the gift that, that came on him by laying of hands, some people say that it doesn't specifically say it. Some people say it was his ministry. Some people say it was the gift of evangelism. But Timothy was going to pastor a church. Timothy needed to be bold to share the gospel. It goes on to say that. Timothy needed to, he had some things that were set out that God had planned for him. He pastored the church. And Timothy ended up living until he was 80 years old. And he then died a martyr's death, because at 80, because he was preaching against the goddess Diana. That's what they say. And that's the goddess that they worshiped, and he was preaching Christ there. And so they ended up killing him because of it. But I want you just to think on Timothy today. Think on the fact that here it is. Paul laid hands on him. Paul's in prison, and he's saying, go out and go be bold and share Jesus. And Timothy had to be like, what? I'm thinking Timothy is like this this kid who's a pretty good kid, maybe. He was raised in the faith, and he's like, you want me to go out and share the gospel with boldness, and I could be in prison, I could be beat. He had to look some things, in the eye, but Paul's like, we laid hands on you. It is God's gift in him that's going to take him to be able to do what he needs to do. And so the encouragement to you all and to me, it's God at work in us. Whatever he's called you to do, it's God's work in you that's going to equip you and be able to send you out to do it. It's not our strength. It's not our strength. I love it. So have a great day, and I'm praying for you, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.